Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jason here, and I hope you're wrenching on something. Hope you're working on something. Springtime's coming, but I'm gonna put a head on a Kawasaki motor today. So on a John Deere X500, they have a real problem with the valve guides falling out, or the valve springs, the seats and stuff, and the valves fall out, and sometimes they poke a hole in the piston. But the valve guide fell out on this one, but we're gonna take it apart, put a head on it, but hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll get going. So this is tractor X500. So you can see here, this is the head. There, somebody already took it apart and inspected it for me. But this bottom valve here, the exhaust valve, you can see, maybe you can't see, but the valve guides popped up here and it doesn't really push in, whereas the intake, it pushes in further. So we know that we're gonna have to put a head on it, and to do that, we're going to take this cover off, take all the engine covers off, and gonna have to take the intake manifold loose, the exhaust pipe off. But I'll show you guys how to do it. So we're gonna take this cover off, take the air filter, all that stuff off. Of course, the great Kawasaki puts Allens in this screen, and they're always a pain, but you might be able to get them out. And then you got your 6 cover bolts on. You just have to loosen them up, and the cover will pull off. You don't have to take them all the way off, but we'll get going on that. All right, so I got that screen off. I had to drive a Torx in there to get it off, and I will most definitely be putting bolts with a head on it. So if anybody else says to take it apart, they can get it apart. And I got this other cover off. I'm gonna go ahead and take this fuel pump bracket and such off. It's just 2 10 bolts there. Got them 2 out. Got a little hose there for vacuum line. Gonna take these 2 bolts here out for the intake manifold. Just gonna loosen up this side. It's just 10. We're gonna take this black shield here off. It's just, I believe these are 3/8 actually, but 10 will get them. But I'm gonna take all these off to get this shield here off. Drop the bolts into place. Got all them off. Just gonna pull this off, get that out of there. And we got, oh good, some more Torx. They hold this throttle plate here on, and then probably gonna have to take this here off. It's got a 5/16 here and a 10 down here. Got that little cover there off. Now there's a bolt under here that holds this cover on. It's just a 10. You'll have to get it with a wrench or socket and ratchet, so we can pull this over. And then we got 2 nuts here for the exhaust. They're 12. You can get them with a wrench, maybe a socket and ratchet. And also got the tractor serial number here, X500 2007 model. Has 589 hours on this mower, this garden tractor I should say. But yeah, we'll get that done and keep going forward. Went ahead and got my nuts off my exhaust pipe. They're 12s, if I forgot to mention that. But now we're ready to pull the head off. So we got 2 bolts here on the outside. We got 1 bolt in the middle. We got 1 up top and 1 down here below. And I'm just going to take a ratchet and break those loose. That one was already very loose. And I'll take the impact and run them the rest of the way out. But So I got my bolts all out here. I'm gonna just go ahead and pull them out, set them to the side here. Now we're ready to pull our head off. I'm hoping we can reuse the head gasket, and so we're going to be kind of gentle pulling this off of here. Should just pop off fairly easily. Oh, I forgot about this hose here. I'm gonna have to take that off. It's just a vent hose for that goes to the carb here. Pull that off of here. So I had to take the pry bar and pry the pipe over a little bit, but there's two dowels in here, so you have to pull it this way and then pull up on it. And you also got to be careful of this intake pipe, because you'll hit that. But so that's why you just can't pull it straight out. But anyways, you can wiggle it out. And so here it is. And good thing, everything looks good for the most part. I got the head gasket here, and looks usable enough, so I'll be reusing it. Now, something else you want to make sure of, you gotta be careful of, is this intake gasket. If you want to, just gotta be mindful of it. They usually rip a lot of the time, but this one looks to be intact. There's nothing here left, so that's good. And of course, you got your exhaust gasket, and that's reusable. Sit that on there. Got this used head here. Looks to be the same one. Looks like it'll work. So I'm gonna make sure there's no gasket material left on here, which it looks like there's a lot. So I'm gonna take a scraper and just lightly scrape all this stuff right here off, and gonna scrape it on the block too, just very lightly, if there's any excess stuff. And then it's got one dowel in it here, see that right there, and then it's supposed to have two of them. So this head's got one in it, the old one, and it's supposed to have one up here. So you just got to check, make sure that it's still in your block. It is, so that's good there. And I'm gonna clean this up and we'll get it ready to put back on. So I just took a razor blade and scraped this off, and gonna sit our head gasket back up in here. Might be easier to take this dowel here out and sit that in the block first, so the head gasket will stay in place. Alright, so I got both dowels there in the block, so the head gasket will sit there. And then make sure we got a clean surface here. And then gotta make sure we get our exhaust gasket on here, because that's going to be important, or else you'll have an exhaust leak. Now this is just, a backyard fix really. It'll get you done, it'll get you down the road, and it'll work fine. If you take it to any shop, they'll probably put a brand new head on it, definitely new head gasket, another intake gasket, and exhaust gasket. But this works perfectly fine. Also forgot, gonna have to scrape this intake gasket here off if there's any on your used head, and just gonna take that, scrape all that off, because our old gasket is still on the manifold, which is good. So just gonna take this off. We're just gonna stick this back on here now. So I got the head back in there. Had to use some of the bolts to help hold the gasket in place. And we're just gonna take our bolts, start them all back in here with our fingers. Gonna take a ratchet and start tightening them up. Get rid of this plug here. Now I forgot to mention, because someone else had already took it apart, but you will have to take your valve cover off. It's just a cover that goes right here around this, covers your valves. And somebody had already took the rocker arms off. That's these right here, and then there's 2 nuts here and 2 push rods. But you will have to adjust them putting it back together, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment here. But so we're just going to start these bolts back in here, grab a ratchet, and just tighten them all up just so they're snug at first, and then we'll tighten them down further. So I got all the bolts kind of snugly in there, and we're just gonna, I don't know what kind of foot pound to tell you, but you don't want to make them super tight, but you don't want them to come loose or anything. So just a firm tightness. We're kind of going to go here in like an X pattern or a star pattern. So I was down here, I went up to this bolt, just going to give it so it's nice and snugged up. You don't want to strip the aluminum out or anything, but you know, don't make it too loose. And I'm going to go to this bottom one here, hit that one up. Go to this top corner here, hit this one. And go to this middle one here. That one's kind of loose. Tighten that up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back through, recheck them, and make sure they're all snugged up. Same pattern. So I got the head bolts tightened up, and now everything just goes back together the same way you took it apart. I'm going to put our nuts here on the exhaust. I'm going to put this cover back on, put that bolt back in there. Got our front throttle plate here and linkage. I'm going to put that back in. Got our intake bolts. Put them back in. Don't forget to tighten up the other side. Alright, so we got all that put back together now. And now comes a very important part, which is putting the push rods in and adjusting the valves. This here is the push rod that came out of it. It bent because the valve guide fell out and it wouldn't compress right here. So I got 2 new push rods right here, 2 new used. What you're going to do is you're going to loosen up this nut right here just for the rocker arm, and loosen that up. Take it probably a good ways off, but we're going to stick this down. It's got a little notch cut out there for it, and you're going to have to find where there's a little spot that'll fall into where the lifter is. Probably can't really see it in there, but it's just a little dowel. See how this end's rounded, and it just sits in there. It's rounded down there, so it can sit in there, and then we'll have to adjust. So I got the push rod sitting in there, and I pushed the rocker arm against it. We're gonna tighten up this nut right here. Now in the center of this nut, it's got like an Allen here, or a Torx. A TE15 Torx fits it real well, but you can adjust this tighter or looser. When you tighten up the nut, it'll either stop further or stop closer, which will tighten up the valve. So we want to adjust it with no pressure on it. So we're going to turn it over. See, it's getting ready to compress right now. So it just compressed. Now we're on the end of that stroke, so we're gonna check it here. Now that's pretty tight. What you're gonna want to get is a feeler gauge. Got one right here, a mini set, and you want to probably get like 8 7 or 8 thousandths, so 0.008 the feeler gauge. So we're gonna have to loosen this nut up a little bit here and tighten up this inside one. And you want to slide this in between the top of the valve and the rocker arm, so it fits in there. Still a little snug, I think, so I'm just gonna loosen this up a little bit more, tighten the inside one up, check it again. That feels pretty good. And you're gonna have to check it a few times. You're gonna want to take your 9/16 and tighten that up, check it again, probably tighten it now. Yep, tighten it pretty good. But once you can usually feel pretty good, you can get a feel for what it needs to be. So you gotta do that with the exhaust too, and check them out. But that's how you adjust the valves. Pretty simple, but pretty important too, because if it's too tight and it's not going to have any compression. If it's too loose, then it's not going to be right either. It's going to start hard and run rough. Need to be adjusted just right. Got the valves all on there. Now we're just going to put our valve cover back on. Got the gasket there. Just going to throw that back on there. I went ahead and put a spark plug in it already. Tighten them up. And you gotta put your fuel pump back on. Make sure you get that vacuum line back on there. And then we're about to see if it'll fire up. Haven't heard it run. Haven't heard the deck come on. Haven't seen it move. So put the battery on charge. Got our spark plug boot on, but let's see if it'll start up. Gotta have the brake on. So I just went and got some carb cleaner, brake parts cleaner, spray that in there, see if that helps any. Apparently it does not. Well, there you go. I did have it running there for a second. Well, there it is running. I have to hold the choke halfway on. I think it's got really bad gas in it. But it is running on both cylinders there. Sounds good, healthy. Sounds like Kawasaki. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see something, put it in the comments. But thanks for watching.